What are some dark secrets and dark sides to trading crypto? I'm going to be speaking to you guys from my over 5+ years of experience in trading this market. I've seen good times, I've seen bad times. I'm going to be talking to you guys about some of the essential tools I use. But if you guys been following my channel, you guys know what type of tools I use. It's no secret. We're also going to be talking about some altcoins later in this video. It is going to be a very exciting video today. We have major bounce backs happening right now. If you guys been following my channel, you guys know that I am bullish on this market. I have not flip-flopped on a daily basis like, you know, some of the other YouTubers. We're gonna be talking about a few altcoins later in this video. We're gonna be talking about Sonic, see what's happening with Sonic. Gonna be talking about. I always forget the altcoins. Okay, let me go ahead and go to the list here. Sonic, which is SUSDT. We're gonna be taking a look into Flux, which is the AI coin. Let's see how that is doing. Also, gonna be taking into a look into Toshi, which is a very hot meme coin. Let's see how that is doing right now. I'm gonna be giving you guys my updated uh, price analysis on these coins, targets, my thoughts. We're also gonna be taking a look into some major economics and crypto news here. Before getting into the charts, of course, we're gonna be talking about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is still the driver of this market. If Bitcoin dumps, that will still dump your altcoins, as we have seen for the past a week or two since Bitcoin hit that all-time high of about 124,000. You want to be rooting for Bitcoin if you are long, even though if you're holding altcoins, okay? I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of what the Bitcoin chart is doing. And what the Bitcoin chart is doing right now is something really crazy, okay? I'm going to be pointing out that to you guys right now. But first of all, we're going to get into some news, and I'll give you guys my instant reaction to some major headlines. First piece here, it's by Crypto Potato. It says Bitcoin price explodes as Fed Chair Powell opens the door for rate cuts in September. So I've been following this. I've been talking about this rate cut with you guys ever since the beginning of this month, where basically the job numbers that came out in the beginning of this month, and it was a much lower than expected jobs added number. You guys can go back to that report in the U.S. of course, which has back in August, the first week of August, where they released that report, and it was a much lower jobs number, right? So that basically spiked the probability of a rate cut in September. However, let's go to this CME Watch tool, which has been very accurate in predicting the probability of a rate cut. Of course, the probability changes, as new data comes in, as new things happen in the world, right? But we basically went from about a 90 something percent in the beginning of August since that job number, and we have actually went down to as low as about 70 something percent yesterday. Now, since the Jackson Hole speech for Powell today, of course, also related to that headline is that, now we're actually seeing a much more dovish tone from Powell here. And that spiked the probability to about 89%. So I think everything is, a lot of this is going to depend on Jerome Powell now because, the data is there, right? I mean, in my opinion, the economy is not, doing so great, right? So it's really going to come down to Jerome Powell, right? So, and he's more dovish today. I'm going to be watching his speech later on just for the highlights. But yeah, I mean, that looks good for Bitcoin. That looks good for the stock market. All right, next piece here is by MarketWatch. Here's the $863 billion secret Powell, Trump, and Percent aren't telling us about gold and Bitcoin. So I think this is definitely worth a read, but I think inflation is going to persist. I think money printing or quantitative easing is going to continue, and when that happens, asset prices are gonna jump up, right? So I think at the end of the day, I can expect these assets, digital assets, to at least have a pump, right? For this bull cycle. All right, next piece here is by Cointelegraph. Philippine bill charts path to strategic reserve with 10,000 Bitcoin. So that is definitely bullish for Bitcoin as more governments, institutions, organizations, corporates is buying Bitcoin as the supply of Bitcoin on this market decreases as more of these organizations are buying them. So that's definitely bullish. All right, next piece here is by Crypto Potato. After 5 straight red days, Bitcoin futures flashes green and hint at rally. So I think it's going to be very important to be paying attention to Bitcoin right now because I see the stock market actually breaking back into a bearish pattern, which is very good, right? If you're a bull, so could Bitcoin follow because it has very high correlation with the S&P 500. Next piece here is by Crypto News. BitMEX's Arthur Hayes buys back Ethereum, predicts Ether could hit $20,000. Remember Arthur Hayes? We've talked about a few headlines with Arthur Hayes and how he was predicting that Bitcoin could go down to 100K. I guess I could safely say after reading this headline that he's discarding that prediction because if you think that Bitcoin is going down to 100K, you're not going to be buying Ethereum right now because that's going to take Ethereum way down. All right, let's come over here to Bitcoin chart. This is a very important chart here. Of course, on the monthly time frame, there is still bearish divergence, but there has been major breakouts that the bulls invalidates bearish divergence on the monthly time frame, namely from December 2020 October 2017. Those are major bull cycle breakouts. So, I am not ruling this one out that this monthly time frame bearish divergence could be invalidated, but I am also aware that it is there. So if it plays out, I wouldn't be surprised. If it gets invalidated, I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm going to be placing my bets. I'm going to be gauging my bets, accordingly, right? Now, on this weekly time frame here, right? I talked about a bearish divergence as well that is playing out. But if this weekly candle closes like this, right? We have about 3 more days. Then we still have a higher low here on this weekly time frame. That is good, right? If you have a higher low, right? Because if you're in an uptrend, you're going to see higher highs and higher lows. Let's take a look into the daily time frame. At least higher lows since that bounce there. If you guys know what I mean, at least a higher low since this bounce. I just want to clarify, okay? Higher low since this bounce here about 2 weeks ago, right? So I just want to clarify that. Let's go ahead and go to daily time frame. Daily time frame, Bitcoin trying to break back on top into this bearish pattern here, this bearish rising wedge. Okay, I talked about a falling wedge yesterday, still valid, broke out of it today with bullish divergence. Bullish divergence is going to be very important for you to spot because it usually signals a pullback. I mean, a reversal, and in this case, is a break out to the upside. Now, I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, so my opinion on this market is bullish right now. However, I want to say that I did place a short here at about 17,000, and my opinion the idea is because if Bitcoin doesn't break back into this pattern and it's basically hitting all the shorter term moving averages here, I will still get a payoff. So this is more like an insurance policy, a small one. And even if I get liquidated, the increase in my long positions um, is gonna over. I mean, it's gonna basically compensates for my short position loss. I am still going to be looking for a short position opportunity somewhere here, just in case Bitcoin does not break back into this bearish pattern, right? Then that's going to be a bearish retest, and that's not going to be good. But that is just what I'm doing, not financial advice, just purely my opinions, okay? Now, the breakout of this falling wedge pattern price target is going to be about 121,000. Let's see if Bitcoin gets there. If it's successful in breaking back into this rising wedge, then we're still very much on track to hit that 145K price target. Now, price targets are estimates only. There could be more or less. Very much depends on what kind of market we're getting. Are we in the bull market, sideways market, or bear market? In my opinion, I think we're still in a bull market unless we lose that 110K support. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to some altcoins here. We're going to be taking a look into Toshi first. Let's see what's happened in Toshi, the meme coin, right? With Toshi here, this is the weekly time frame. I talked about a possible cup and handle pattern if Toshi gets back to about 0.1 cents here, okay? If you guys can see, because that was basically where Toshi got rejected back in May 12th, the week of May 12th. If it comes back up here to retest 0.1 cents twice on this weekly time frame, that will establish this. That would develop basically establish this cup and handle pattern. Could it establish it on a lower time frame? Yes, it could as well. So something's to be keeping an eye out on for Toshi. Now, I did mention that on the daily time frame that there was a rising wedge breakdown. Rising wedges are bearish patterns. Breakdown target, Toshi it basically went down to the T here for this price target, about 0.062 cents breakdown target. Now, let's go ahead and invalidate some of those trend lines since that's basically been met, that price target. And since then, Toshi has formed this falling wedge pattern. I did adjust the falling wedge pattern on the bottom trend line here to rechart it, but it actually broke out of it about 2 days ago. And let's see if I can get a price target here. Price target is basically measuring the opening of the pattern, and you put it on top of an estimated or actual breakout point. And this will give Toshi about a 0.00088, about there, price target. Let's see if it gets there and some more, okay? Of course, also we gotta consider the downside as well, because I've seen breakouts that fall short of the price targets. Very much depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping, that's not gonna be good for the altcoins. I can't stress that enough. Let's go ahead and go to Flux and see what's happening with this AI coin here. Flux. Weekly time frame. Was that where we left off? Weekly time frame. I mentioned this huge falling wedge pattern here. Okay, price target for Flux, if it breaks out to the upside here, is going to be about $3.35, just short of that. Falling wedges, again, usually break to the upside, but there's still a smaller chance it breaks down. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame. This is the daily time frame. Falling wedge pattern, again, on this daily time frame. Quite a bit of resistance, which are moving averages above the price action. That's going to be acting as resistance. If it breaks out of here, price target, let's just say if it breaks out by this point, for example, price target will give Flux about a 28 cents price target. Let's see if it gets there. So that's Flux on the higher time frame to a smaller time frame for you. Let's go ahead and go to Sonic SUSDT. What has gone on in this market? I'm gonna wait for the chart to load here. I mentioned a falling wedge pattern on the weekly time frame, right? Price target for this breakout here, it already broke out a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't done too much. In fact, it actually went down a little bit since the breakout, but it's still valid because the price action has been staying on top of the upper trend line here in this case. Price target is going to be about just short of 95 cents for Flux. Let's see if it gets there. There's quite a few patterns that are also in place, smaller patterns, right? Let's just talk about the one that that has formed since it broke out of the bigger falling wedge pattern here. This is the daily time frame. Price targets for this smaller falling wedge pattern. This is why you gotta know your falling wedges, because they usually break to the upside, as I've been showing you guys here just right now. Price target is going to be about 42 cents for Flux. I mean, Sonic SUSDT. Let's see if it gets there. The orange line, which is the daily 200 SMA, the orange line is going to be resistance if Sonic is able to get above that price target. It's waiting for you at 45 cents if it gets there. That's going to be resistance. Resistances are going to be very important to spot because that's where traders are likely to take profits and where you are likely to see a pullback. So this basically wraps it up for today's video on these coins. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of Toshi, Flux, Sonic, or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.